I invited a guest today, Taj Belgium from Food Science, which is a Christchurch based company. And she will give us some insights. I mean, I can tell you whatever I want. But I think it's good on one hand to have someone who really stays in practice and who knows what he or she is talking about. In this case, she. So, okay, let's kick it off. I don't know if everyone has read the articles before. What it is, this first piece covers the introduction into 13485. Short about me, why can I present? Obviously, I'm experienced in medical devices based on a European market. I moved to New Zealand a while ago and now supporting New Zealand and Australian-based companies placing their device on the European market, or European companies as well placing if they want to place their devices on the Australian or New Zealand market. So that's what Tracy said, and what I'm really proud of what the HealthTech Activator did. So we have a full year full of education, divided in 4 quarters. We're finishing now the first one. We had the articles, now it's a webinar. We will end everything with a quiz, and a white paper will be launched. So thank you so much to the HealthTech Activator for making this happen. So, okay, let's start. Into 13485, why we care about 13485? Because when we have a look into, when we search up what is the international standard for quality management system for medical device, it comes up as 13485 is what we are looking for. I have a question, and just, yeah, give me a meme. So when we're talking about a standard, I mean, I know it's not interesting to read it, but does everyone cares about the introduction? Every standard provides you with an introduction. Has everyone read the introduction of 13.5? And you can confess no, because I didn't. To be fair, I didn't, and no one does. But I will tell you a secret. It would be good to read, because the introduction gives you an idea of what it is about. It's not only about the medical device manufacturer itself. This standard can be applied by a supplier or even by another external third party, which means if you're a medical device manufacturer and you are looking for a supplier for parts or for service, it would be good if you check if they follow 13.5. That gives you a bit of insurance that they follow a standard. What is 13.5 from business perspective? We are always talking about quality and regulatory, but one of the points actually is we have to have a look into this from a business perspective. First of all, 13.5 is a recognized standard. What is a recognized standard? That is the first question. What does it mean? So we in New Zealand, let's go, and to be fair, we are not really up to date when it comes to regulation, right? Let's have a look to Australia. On TGA's website, they state that a manufacturer must implement a quality management system based on recognized standards. Again, recognized standards. Please tell me what it is. So we have a look into one of their legislation, and this legislation says, by the way, when we talk about a quality management system, please apply 13.5. So what this means is recognized means if a jurisdiction states in their legislation 13.5. So I will give you another example. If you want to place your device on the US market, which is a different system, but the FDA changes next year. From February 2026, they integrate 13.5 in their system. So, ta-da. So, which means easy as 13485 therefore then recognized within FDA. What is the next point from a business perspective? Why do we need 13485, or why do we need a quality management system? Explanation with the same word, because to manage quality, and when we say to manage quality, I think it's pretty clear. When we have a structured quality management system, we make sure that people always follow the same procedure. There are no deviations. I have a description about a process, and if everyone follows the same description, we should expect the same results. So, which means we have a structure. The other thing is it's about when we go into relationship with other businesses, it's about safety, trust, and reputation, right? As I say, if you're looking for a supplier and your supplier say, hey, I'm following 13485, I don't say they are 13485 certified, but they're following 13485. That gives you trust, because what we've seen before, they follow a structured approach. So that gives you trust, or you put trust in their results. Another point is that we are talking, if someone have heard about it, continuous improvement. Oh my God, the next word, which is another term we use in quality management. And I didn't mention this when we started. When you go into quality and regulatory, it's really learning another language. I know what I'm talking about. I started English 2018, so I know it's not easy, but when you stick to it, I'm sure everyone will get it. So again, continuous improvement. What does mean continuous improvement? When we start the business and start to implement 13485, that is the first set. And over time, the business will improve, product quality will improve, the team will improve. And that's what we say, a continuous improvement. We learn every day, and we want to make it better every day. And when I say we want to make it better, it is all about patient safety. Sometimes we want to make it better, but we can't, because it wouldn't go in hand with patient safety. So, but we have some tools in 13485 which helps us to do this in continuous improvement. One is that we audit our system. The other thing is that management has to review the system, and the best thing we can do is that we have KPIs, which is a great tool in our quality management system, and which serves as adjustment to improve. So introduction, I said about it. Introduction phase, when you apply 13485, the first thing you have to do is you have to identify the rule under your applicable regulatory requirements. We will talk about it in a second. Then you have to identify the regulatory requirements, and you have to incorporate this one. So what this means is, Tash, are you online?
Yes, hello.
Hello. Yeah, welcome. This is Natasha Bertram from Food Science International aus Christchurch. And Tash, I would like you to give us some ideas what does mean, what does mean, what rule do I have to find, what does mean in this yeah, over to you, please.
So for us, we design, manufacture, sell, and distribute orthotic insoles. So under 13485, our role, we manufacturer of that. And due to that, when we go into our regulatory requirements and how we identify what we need, we have to have a regulatory strategy to meet those requirements. Obviously, that means it's obviously based on region, so MDR, the FDA, the TGA, etc. And within those regulatory requirements, for example, the MDR requires us to have what's called a PRRC, and that's the person responsible for regulatory requirements. And they often have to have certain qualifications and experience to be able to support and manage all of that.
Perfect. Thanks, Tash. Let's summarize it. So, which means when you set up a quality management system, it really depends on what you're doing. You can be a manufacturer, you can be an importer, you can be a distributor, you can be a sponsor. So when I say sponsor, in the New Zealand and Australian market, a sponsor is someone who is the representative for the manufacturer, because we're talking about a company, let's see, a company based in New Zealand, they will place their device on a market in Australia. And they need someone responsible in Australia, therefore they have to appoint a sponsor. So if I'm a sponsor in Australia, my role is the sponsor. That's important. So then it depends on jurisdiction. When I find my role, I have to see when we are talking about regulatory requirements, I have to see what the legislation require me to do in addition. And as Tash says, for example, when I launch my device in Europe, and I have to apply, obviously, the medical device regulation, and they require me to have a person responsible for regulatory compliance. So I don't need this person if I launch my device only in Australia or in the US, but I need the person when I have this, when I launch my product in the European market. And then, of course, I have to incorporate these requirements in my quality management system. What this means is, let's say I've set up a system, we have done everything, placed the device on the market in Australia, New Zealand, and then I say, let's go to Europe. So what I have to do then, I have to add some requirements into my quality management system. I have to make sure I have this person in place. I might need another process description, what this person has to do. That is always me. And as I say, it's part of the introduction, which I haven't read before. So, yeah. Another thing is, which states in the introduction, is that 13.5 implementing 13.5 is a strategic decision of an organization. Often, I come across that you enter a company, you have a good chat with a quality person, and CEO or management, they don't care. They want to get the product out, they want to get the money in, and they don't care about quality, the quality management system. And the quality person or the regulatory person is a poor guy who has lots of trouble. They know they need him because otherwise they can't place a device on the market. But in the end, sorry for this bad wording, but in the end, he's a pain in the ass, or she. So therefore, it has to be a strategic decision of an organization. It is teamwork that is really, really, really important. So that is the next part, which is important. So always the question is how to implement, what do I do? How to implement this standard? I can read it, but what shall I do? It's just like lots of pages, lots of requirements. So first thing is that how I implement this, a quality management system, it really depends on the need of the company. Tash, can you give us maybe an example?
Sure. So we are a small to medium-sized company. We have 23 staff. And when we first sort of started putting some of our quality management into place, it was very lean. And as we've evolved, especially probably over the last 18 to 24 months, we've needed to go back and revisit and review some of those processes to add in like better detail as we've started to learn sort of certain words and process owners and things like this. So for an example, we had a procedure that goes into detail of how we want to place a market a device onto the market. And we've had to sort of be more specific in everybody's roles and responsibilities within that. For example, how does sales, how does customer service, how does marketing all fit into the full process? And in particular, one thing we sort of were lacking a little bit in was that prior research and the regulatory strategy. So we had to add in a piece where if we're looking at going to a new market, that the quality and reg team are informed and the timeline of these things, because some of it's brought us sort of by surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, by surprise. Yeah. So what Tash said is we don't have a quality management system which fits, let's say, which is one size. We really have to see what size of company you are. Sometimes we have a 3-man or woman, 3-people company. I mean, so that really depends on size of the company, product, what processes I have in place, and so on. So another thing is what objectives does a company have, the organization? Tash, what was it on your side?
Yeah, so one of our objectives that we've had is growth into new regions. We've been around for a number of years and been on some number of the bigger markets, but just recently we have wanted to enter into Brazil. So that's, in the last 12 months that's happened. So that was basically one of our objectives, was to get in there. So we needed to fully understand and have that regulatory strategy and just see where it all fitted within the QMS.
So yeah, what is mean as well is first when you start, obviously your objective is just I will come up with a quality management system because I have a medical device. And while the company is evolving, then you start, see, maybe it's now we are focusing on sales, or we are focusing on developing a different technology, for example. That all has an impact, and this can change. So it's not that you set up a quality. That's by the way, that's a question I sometimes get. It's just like, okay, when we have set up the system, then the person will have time to do other stuff. No, never ever. This is a full-time job. If you're a quality person, that is really a full-time job, because there is maintenance. We call it maintenance. You have to maintain your quality management system, and maintenance can be derived from changing the objectives. So what another part is the processes we have within the organization. So yeah, maybe Tash, can you speak out of experience?
Yeah, so we've learned a lot recently in the past 12 months around some of these. Obviously, we manufacture here in Christchurch, so internal processes, and we do have a small amount of outsourced processes. And obviously, as the manufacturer, you are responsible for those products that you outsource. So we've learned a lot of our quality checks, what's going on in our outsourced processes, need to be really similar or even more stringent than what you have in place in-house. For example, you would need to audit the company of the outsourced process. So you fully understand what kind of quality checks, etc., and how they're making your product for you. Whereas our internal processes, we have a number of quality control points throughout the whole process, and we monitor those through KPIs. And then those are reported in monthly management meetings, and then again in what we have our quarterly management review of the QMS to see how everything's functioning. So yeah, we have both.
Okay, yeah. So that's exactly what Tasha is. You need to understand what processes are in-house and what processes do you outsource. When I say processes outsource, an easy example is if you are a manufacturer, it really depends if you have your manufacturing site inside or in-house, or if you have a supplier. But I can give you an example with a software. If you're not, I don't know, Siemens Healthcare or a really big one, with software as medical device, you have definitely to outsource the pen testing. So pen testing leads to cybersecurity, and that is a service you have to outsource. So and you have to apply different different controls when you outsource a process, as Tash explained, as when you have it in-house. So you would choose your service provider wisely based on criteria you have to describe within your quality management system. So a good thing, sorry, a really, really good one is that 13485 uses a process approach. Just like, oh my God, what's she talking about? So what does mean is when we are talking about a process approach, is just we have when we structure a standard 13485, there are different requirements related to, let's say, to manufacturing, to supplier management, to design and development, and so on. So, and 13485 really requires you, when you set up your quality management system, to think in process. So I often have seen quality management system, I have to say, where it's just like text. It just, you read like a novel. That's not what we want. When you set up your quality management system, I please one thing, which is can be quite hard. Just forget everything you have learned at school about writing. It's not about writing nicely, writing a novel. It's just like every sentence can start with the same word. It is not a problem. Write it clear, really understandable, and structure everything. Please be in mind. I mean, you develop the processes based on your company, on your knowledge, on the team. A third party who has to assess and review the processes, because you might apply for a certification, they need to understand. So make it for them as easy as possible, and not only for them, make it for you as easy as possible, that everyone comes new in a company can use this process description to understand what he or she has to do. That is the best way. So let's have a look into what is a process. I think everyone knows, right? So we have interacting activities, and we have inputs and we have outputs. That is easy. So what we then need, we need a procedure, and a procedure is what we have in our quality management system. We have to specify how we carry out activities. That's easy as. So, and when we have a look into the source from another ISO standard, 9001, then it's exactly, that's what I would like to see with every process description you have in your quality management system. You have an input, you have an activity, and you have an output. And good is to understand where the inputs come and where the outputs go. So that is not rocket science. That's actually really easy. If someone asks, how can I set up my quality management system? We will come to it later on. But that's actually what I want to see. And let's repeat this one for every process. and break it down into process steps. So, and here we go into the standard itself. As I said before, processes that are the main parts when we are talking about a quality management system. So 13.5 says you should determine the processes. And that's always the question, how do I do this? How do I determine the processes I need? Speaking of experience, out of experience, often when I audit a company, it's the case that you have the quality person in front of you, and it doesn't matter if you ask about supplier management, education, design and development, software development, manufacturing, verification, validation. He or she will always answer the questions I ask. And so there is no real interaction with the team. And why is it? Because in most of the companies, the mindset is that's a quality person. They are paid to set up the quality management system. They're responsible. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yes, they are responsible for the quality management system, but they are not responsible for setting up the processes. Because when you read determine the processes, I need to have someone who understands what is going on in this process, right? So the quality person, he or she needs to understand what processes I need based on the standard, but I need the team to really form the processes. Another requirement is apply a risk-based approach. As I say, quality regulatory reading is something like, oh gosh, what does that mean? It's not rocket science. Again, risk-based approach means, so we're developing a medical device. You can develop an implant, or you can develop, as is the case with food science, pharmaceutics. So you have to figure out to determine which of my processes brings risk to the product. So obviously, when I have an implant, the design and development process differently, the manufacturing process differently, validation process for sure. So what does it mean is the following. You need to understand which of your processes bearing a risk to your medical device, and you have to make sure that these processes are really described in detail. That's it, nothing more. So another part is that is about the determination of sequence and interaction of these processes. And I can tell you, I have seen different things and lots of things, figures, diagrams, and actually none of those have made this requirement. So I will show you one. That's what most, if you're familiar with the quality management system, that's what most of you are familiar with, right? That is an overview of the processes you have in your system. And if you come and audit, they will hand it over and say, okay, that are our processes, and that is the interaction of my process. And you would say, that is does not show a sequence and interaction of processes. Definitely not. It divides into management process, core process, and support process, but I can't see the interaction. So if I start to line up here the interaction of process, it looks maybe like I don't know. So you wouldn't see anything because they're all related. Instead of, I recommend, let's go back. I recommend to have this one as process overview. Don't call it this shows the sequence and the action of our process. Say that is our process overview. And when it comes to sequence and interaction of processes, just use other tools. It's obviously not the most sophisticated one. That's obviously is Excel, but what I can do here is I can list the processes, and for example, when I use a red one, I say, okay, that is a process which I have to apply a risk-based approach. And that is a process. Risk management feeds into product development, and risk management feeds also into, for example, into clinical evaluation. And risk management is supporting the management review. So using an Excel sheet, I can really show a sequence, the interaction of processes. The sequence of processes, I have an overview, or I should have an overview in each SOP, in each standard operating procedure. Not only the process steps described, but come up with a figure, which makes it easier to understand. Another requirement is that 13.5 requires you, again, it's a lot of process, and that's where we focus today. It's about determine criteria and methods that operation and controls of this are effective. When you read this, it's just like, oh my God, what do they want us to do? Availability of resources, support operation. So it's pretty easy. You remember first when I started, so you set up your quality management system, and then the team works with it, and you need to find a tool to make sure that actually the process does what it is supposed to do. Where do you know that the process does what it's supposed to do? You have to find some KPIs. So when I say KPIs, let's stay with you have a process for, let's say, for change management, for example. And one of the KPIs in change management could be the time, how long it takes the company to go through a change process. That could be a KPI. Let's say you say, okay, to go through a change with, let's say, with hardware, the change process or the change should be approved within 4 weeks. So if you see over time, oh my God, they need 8 to 12 weeks, then you can ask the question, hey, what's wrong? We don't have enough resources. What is our problem? We don't understand the product. Why do we deviate from 4 weeks to 8 to 12 weeks? There must be an issue. So what is mean is those KPIs, they are not to control people. It's really to control the process. And that is another thing which is really important. Everything we do here, it's not to blame people. It's just to bring product quality and have effective processes in place. That is important. And that's what we have to communicate. And when we say there's, let's say we go from 4 to 8 to 12 weeks, then maybe we have to implement some changes. And sometimes we have to change a KPI if it's not related to let's say to people or to resources. If it's really related, it takes that long because we can't, you know what, we don't have a consumer product. We can't go switch and off we go. There is a change implementation is a planned process. So, and if it takes us 8 to 12 weeks because we have to go through drawing and then approval and so on, that's what it takes. We have to change it. But that's where we start to understand and to maintain our quality management. That's what I said before: monitor, measure, analyze. That is the most important part maintenance of our quality management system. So it's not done if you are, let's say, in a leading position in your company. It is not done with implementing a quality management system. That's not the point. It is really, we have to maintain. And when I say maintain, again, it's not on the quality management person or on a regulatory person. We need the whole team, and management should lead this process. Management should encourage people to, I have to find the right word, I have to be really careful. They should they should encourage people to improve and to go this way for continuous improvement. So what they also need to understand, we always, or I'm confronted when we have discussions sometimes, not always, but we are confronted with, yeah, but when we do go to a change process or when we use a quality management system, we slow our development time, or we are not on time on a market. I can tell you one thing, and that's what really impressed me. When I first entered food science and had a really good meeting with the CEO, he said, you know what? Yeah, I know it will take us 18 months to go to Brazil, but I can tell you what, it takes our competitor exactly 18 months as well. So, and that's exactly the point. You have to keep in mind, when you need 18 months, the other side need 18 months as well. If you see a chance to shorten your time, then go for it. Bring on the changes, go for continuous improvement, but everyone else with the same product has exactly the same challenge as you has. So another point is when you set up your quality management system first. So let's work people. Let's use the team and let's do them an assessment on their own. We had good discussions, Tash. That's more out of the blue for you now, but when we brought the team on board and they understood their responsibility, they came up with changes on their own, wasn't it?
Yeah, as we've gone along in our journey, that process owner and owning those processes has definitely helped, I think, the rest of the team, or empower them, basically. That they thought it was all up to quality to decide everything. And now it's more of a collaborative thing where we all sit down together. So there's more buy-in to the full processes that we have when you have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually, it's not an exercise. Quality management system, implementing quality management system shouldn't be exercise. That is really something which brings value into the company. So, and I think I stretched it really. The important thing is just the processes. So we need process, a process understanding. That is the first thing. When we are talking about processes, we are talking about ownership and accountability. As I say, it's not quality and regulatory. They have the oversight, and they will guide people through the process to write it up. But we have ownership and accountability. A software developer should know what he does, and they should be responsible for their SOP. It can't be quality and regulatory. We we must be able to measure and monitor processes. Otherwise, we don't know if our quality management system works. We don't know. And based on measuring and monitoring, we are able to improve. And when I say we are able to improve, that really brings value to the company. Continuous improvement means everyone is involved. The team comes up with changes. They see, because they are the one working in their processes. And when they start to change, then we start to make an improvement. So how does it look like? I think with these interconnected processes, I think it's clear for everyone. So let's say I picked this 3 out. We have a risk management process. If we identified something in risk management process, that will go as an input. The risk mitigation will go as an input in the design and development process. And the outputs from the design and development process, they will be used to monitor the device on a market, so which will then be the post-market surveillance process, which we have to do. It's not done when we place a device on a market, say, oh, c'est la vie, here we go. Then the job starts actually. The part before was fun, design development, manufacturing, that was fun. Now it's on a market in use with the patient, that is post-market surveillance. And this will feed back into the company as well, into other processes. We will have user feedback, good one. We might have complaints, but everything comes back, and the processes are interconnected with each other. And that is really important to understand, because that means you want to have the development team working together with the risk manager, or they are sometimes part of the risk management team. So that is where the whole company is involved. So, and that's what I said about ownership and accountability. We have teams. That is really, really important. So the process software development, the process owner should be the head of software development, or sometimes CTO or whoever. So they are the process owner, and only the process owner, they can give you the numbers, the tools, and tell you how you can monitor their processes. Because when you are part of management team, I don't necessarily have an idea about what they're doing, but if they give me the tools and I can monitor their processes, then I know exactly where my quality management system sits. And that is important to understand to steer the business. We were talking about the risk-based approach. I think that is pretty easy to understand. Identify the processes which have an impact on quality, product quality, and this one apply the risk-based approach. That is what I say. So, and the question, that's the main question, always comes, how to implement a quality management system. So here, and I have a standard 13.5. Where do I start? Don't start with standard. Don't start with a standard. Don't even try. It doesn't make any sense. What you do is talk to your people and ask them, let's say, with a designer, developer, software developer, or a product developer. So what are your design resources? Let them tell what are the people, what is the skill sets, what are the tools they use. And based on the information they give you, or they come up with this, then come up with, okay, when we're talking about people, we need a certain skill set of people. So, which means, okay, we need a skill set, and based on our quality management system, we might need some training. But when I'm talking about a skill set, your quality management person will then come and say, okay, that is chapter in the standard. With manufacturing, let's say, okay, what do we have? We have process equipment, we have tools, and let's say we have storage. That might be an interesting one. Oh, what do you mean we have storage? Yeah, you know, when when I think of our product that might be stored in a warehouse, oh, okay, so we might have considered temperature, humidity, yada, yada, yada. So, and then I say, oh, okay, I collect this information, and then I say, okay, that sounds like a label. And, oops, that sounds like a label. And that is chapter 751 in this case from a standard. Raw material, hey, listen, we definitely use raw material. Oh, okay, which means we need to find suppliers. Yep, we need to find suppliers. Okay, there's a chapter for in the standard. And because we have raw material incoming, okay, we need to conduct an incoming good inspection. Good point. Raw material, when we have suppliers and we have them qualified, we might need to do supplier surveillance. And that is part. What I want to say and what I want to give you on hand is, as I say, often the question is, how do I set up a quality management system? Work with your people in their process. They should come up what they do. And if they are not firm with 13.5, the quality person can then see what chapter from 13.5 do we match, and can then come up with some more regulatory requirements. And so you make it a teamwork. You have the people with the knowledge in the area, with the IP, and you have the quality person who can add information and value to this. So let's go back. Sorry. So that's how it can look like. I don't say you have to do this. That was only for product development, but that would be always a recommendation to start like this, to start to structure a process. So let's give me a summary for today. 13.5, one which I haven't written down is, please read the introduction. As you have seen, there's some useful information in it. So, and I mean from every standard. Important is ownership. Ownership of a process, and that's where you start to engage busy leaders, because they will always tell you they're too busy, they can't. Yeah, they do, because they own the process. You have a team, and use this team to simplify processes. Set processes up, as I say, start to set it up, and then support the team as a quality person or as a leader, support the team to make it simple. It's not carved in stone. Changes, that's what we call continuous improvement. And please, as a busy leader, as a CEO, whatever you are, please understand that processes are the guardians of your QMS. If you set up a quality management system, which is strategic decisions, work with processes. That are the guardians. So that what it for today. One thing is we are going in the next one, Q2. That's about implementation and best practice. Again, HTA will launch articles. There will be a webinar. There will be a quiz, and there will definitely a white paper for this. This Q1, so we had the article, we had the webinar. We finished Q1 with a quiz, and everyone who does a quiz and pass it will receive a certificate of completion, which is upskilling under ISO 13.5. So you can use that you have upskilled.